Hello and good morning or good afternoon or good evening, whatever time zone you are in, and welcome to episode 10 of Party Chat. We got a full packed house today, new record for most panelists on stream. So we have Ryan back with us in the flesh. Hello, thank you for making it.
What's going on? It's good to be back, and I'm actually on camera this time. That's right.
Yeah.
So
hopefully your internet can hold up and keep you here the whole time.
well, like I said, I didn't have to work today. So the thing is that internet would be kind of like cell service. So I tried to jump on a couple of times while at work, and it did not work. And so no, if you see me, I'm on a physical internet connection, not my phone.
Excellent. Glad you are here. And my other awesome co-host, Mark the Cyborg, who is currently playing Super Mario RPG.
Yes, I am. And I'm streaming it on my channel. So if you guys open up a new tab, just mute it and you can see me.
You can watch him play it while we're talking.
Repeatedly playing the same jumping puzzle that I'm just getting destroyed on. And it costs 5 coins every time, and I keep running out of money.
So, and then I have our awesome guest co-host, a twofer today. We got Charlie and Adam from Goes Nowhere Does Nothing.
What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, thanks for joining me, you guys. And for anyone who might have missed it, I had Adam on Thursday night for open mic. We had a great discussion, so go check that out if you want to hear us talk about some just random video game, and we even talked about some non-video game related stuff. So, and I'll have to get Charlie on at some point for us to have a one-on-one chat. So we got a good group here today. So we will get right on into it. So first off, usually we start off with talking about what we've been playing. So Mark, since you're currently playing Mario RPG, how are you liking it so far?
I think it's really good. It's a very fun game with really good music. It's an interesting story that has, it's not a very complex one. It's a pretty simple story, but it's one that has a lot of really witty writing and comical situations between some Super Mario characters and a few original characters that seem more like Squaresoft versions of maybe like a Kate Sith type Moogle character and a guy that's sort of like Pinocchio. But yeah, it's all just pretty good JRPG stuff that's straightforward. It's easy to navigate the world because it's all set up like a Super Mario World map where you go from one little segment to the next, but instead of a 2D Super Mario Brothers platforming course, it's a little diorama Final Fantasy dungeon. So it almost visually looks like I guess, and now it's kind of hard to tell because it's obviously this is a remake, so it's obviously more polygonal and done with 3D techniques, whereas the original one I believe was made with the same techniques of Donkey Kong Country, where 3D models but digitized and then animated with 2D techniques. But at the same time, the way the levels are designed is much more 360 degree movement because it's an isometric perspective, and there are situations where you do have to jump. Like the thing I was losing on was an isometric jumping puzzle, and they're not the easiest things in the world to do. But I think I'm having
first-person jumping puzzles.
No, I would much prefer first person. I mean, I just gave a really good review to Ghost Runner 2, and that whole game is a first person jumping puzzle.
Yes, I saw that. I was in that video for briefly.
Yeah, there you go. I have a little clip of Party Chat in it.
Yeah, from a couple weeks ago when Jane was on. And quickly, you played the original Super Mario RPG, I assume?
I rented it a couple times when I was like 11, but I don't really remember the finer points of it. I kind of remember the deal with it, and I remember enjoying it, but yeah, this is the absolute. I think I'm most of the way through it at this point, and this is absolutely the most time I've ever spent with this game.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, I played it a couple times over to a friend's house, so I never actually played through it in its entirety. But cool. Glad to hear that.
Although, as far as things I've been playing, though, I'd say this week I definitely put it on because I mean this game came out yesterday.
Yeah.
But this week I put a lot more hours into various Metal Gear Solid games. I kind of got on a kick where I wanted to play the Metal Gear Solid game using the Konami collection that they rushed at all because I didn't buy it and I don't want to support it in any way. But I've emulated on Duck Station the original Metal Gear Solid and played through all of it. I started Metal Gear Solid 2 being emulated on the PS3 emulator, but it's the Blue Point remake that they did, a remaster. And I just finished Act 1 of Metal Gear Solid 5 just on Steam, but I already had that on Steam. And it's it's an okay port. It's not the best, but it controls really well. It looks great, and it sometimes I was often talking to my chat that it just blows my mind that Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, is a game that you can play on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 right now. And like when you're playing it on 4K on 60 FPS with a mouse and keyboard with all the graphics settings to max on a PC, it's kind of wild that you're like, man, this runs on
that old hardware.
It's not like, oh, it looks like this because it's a PS4 game. It's like, no, it looks amazing and it's a PS3 game. So how does that happen?
One of those later games that kind of pushed the hardware to its limits, I assume.
Man, I'm telling you, it's just the targets, because what they did is they said, okay, let's design it so that it will run on a PS3 or an Xbox 360, but it'll look a lot better on a PS4 or an Xbox One. And when we eventually release it on PC, you can just make it run as nice as you want, like max it out. And I think that more games should be developed that way. So it's why when people say it's like, oh, you get these cross-gen games are terrible, they're holding the new hardware back. I'm like, I don't know, man. Because if they just make it so that the game needs to function on old hardware, it's just going to run great and look amazing on the new hardware anyway. So what's the problem? I think trying to max out the hardware is how you end up getting stuff like Red Skull happening. It's like, well, we try to do a whole bunch of crazy stuff, but now it looks like crap and it runs like crap. So there you go.
Yeah. All right. We got Melee K's in the chat, who we usually yell at each other. Hello, Kay. Good to see you. So, Charlie, what have you been playing lately?
Well, I'm gearing up to play the Mario RPG remake and jump on those tadpoles till the end of time. But before that, I've been on a huge pinball kick. So I've been kind of slowly buying up all the tables and pinball effects.
I saw you did like a 3-hour stream on the cadet table like a week or two ago.
Oh yeah, like that was when I learned that not only the cadet that we all knew and loved from Windows 98, there were two other tables.
I thought that was Windows XP, but yeah, from back in the day. I didn't know that there were two other tables either. I just knew of the Space Cadet table.
Yeah, and so there's the Space Cadet one's the easy one. And there's a Dragon's Keep one, which is about the middle one. And then Skullduggery, the pirate themed one, which is probably the hardest, but has the funniest sound effects.
Cool. Yeah, I've never really been much into pinball games, but I did play a lot of the Space Cadet table back in the day. I think it was like, because I was in a computer program in like 4th grade, and that was like the one game that was on our computers, so I played that a lot. Cool. So, all right. And Adam, what have you been playing lately?
Lately, I've been doing a lot of Spider-Man 2. Actually, happen to have it sitting right here. Actually, just finished up my first playthrough of it, and I'm starting my second playthrough. Really looking forward to when Insomniac releases the new game Plus mode.
Okay.
Which I'm assuming will be announced at the Game Awards. That's my prediction.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yep. And I'm going to be traveling for Thanksgiving, so I won't be able to do a whole lot of gaming, but as soon as I get back, I'm hoping to jump into the other massive amount of games that came out in October, because good Lord, there was just like every day there was something new.
Good old Broketober.
Yeah. But yeah, at some point I'll be jumping into Alan Wake 2, which is a game I've been waiting 13 years for. Alan Wake 2, I'll hopefully be jumping into Assassin's Creed Mirage, which I know it's a Ubisoft game. It's going to play like a Ubisoft game, but I'm really excited that they're going back to the basics, about making this more of an action stealth instead of action RPG. I got nothing against the RPG community, but when it came to Assassin's Creed, I just preferred action stealth. And then at some point, I'll be jumping into the new Hellboy that just came out, Web of Weird. And that'll probably take me all the way into January. So on top of that, probably grabbing a few little games here and there. Not exactly sure what I'll get. But yeah.
Cool. And we also had Classy Vigilante, good buddy, who's also active in Mark's channel a lot too. Good to see you here. Glad you joined us. Ryan, have you been playing anything lately? You've been too busy streaming or working?
No. I've actually
my editor.
Yeah, he's just editor. That's right.
Yeah. No, I've actually I have been playing something. So obviously
Other than Fortnite.
Yeah. So I had my old stream computer. The hard drive was starting to crash on me. So I took my old gaming computer, made it the stream computer. I got a new computer. So obviously I got a new computer. So I've been playing because it's that intense. Party Animals with a bunch of Legion of Memers. So that's about all I've really been playing. But it does make good for good entertainment and a lot of swearing.
I have not played it yet, but it looks like a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. And when you get a bunch of dudes together, just shit. Yeah, there you go. Almost said it. Just crap talking. It goes nuts. So, but
Yeah,
no, I look forward to diving into some other stuff. And, now that I have a new computer and, obviously it's got a better graphics card and all that.
Yeah.
So.
Last party chats. I think episode 9 was. I think Paul was the last guest on, and we could hear X-Ray Girl screaming from the other room the whole time. She was playing Party Animals.
The Ghost Runner review video that you've got that little cameo in. There's a part where X-Ray Girl screams so audibly while she's playing Party Animals that I had to throw some text in to contextualize it. Because as I was editing it,
oh, that's right,
thinking she was just still playing a game or playing a horror game, and then I was like, wait a sec. Oh, that's in my headphones. That's not. It's not in the house, and because I think one time it happened while she wasn't home. I was just editing while she was asleep or something, and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's in the video."
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
I've not ever played Party Animals though. I'm not really a big multiplayer guy these days. I kind of like just being in the world.
It's probably definitely more fun with a group rather than playing with a bunch of randoms.
Yeah, it really is.
Party yelling at each other.
So it's not something I don't like. I won't play Fortnite or anything like that with a bunch of random people. I just get a bunch of us together and we just, like I said, talk crap, beat each other up. So and it's even funnier because who do we have on? We had Horror Amarada on a couple times ago. And I was kicking her ass at first, and then by the end of the game, I was like, "Dude, what the fuck?" She kept, sorry, dang it. I was like, "What the hell?" She keeps knocking me out, and she's like, "Well, yeah, I played the tutorial," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't do that."
That kind of helps sometimes.
Yes, it does.
We got Dempsey in the chat saying, "Hello, everyone." Hello.
Oh no, not Dempsey. At least Boosh isn't here to get you guys riled up.
I think you were on. Dempsey showed up during our thing last Thursday. So hello again.
Yeah. So, and then lastly, I was panic playing, as I so often refer to it. Thanks to Paul Hadouken, he coined that term for me for games that are about to leave Game Pass. I was panic playing Ghost Song, which is a 2D side-scrolling Metroidvania, kind of like a mix between Metroid and Blasphemous, or Ender Lilies. And so I was working on that, and I got that literally hours before it left Game Pass. I was this close to giving up on the last achievement, but I was able to get that completion. And then last night I started a game called Colot, which probably no one has probably ever heard of. Bought it years ago for $1. It's my random game of the month for a competition I'm taking part in. It's kind of boring. It's a walking simulator, but I was able to get through 17 of the 20 achievements in a 2-hour quick playthrough. So I'll have to go back to get some more of that. But I will be talking more about that on episode 2 of Achievement Chasers with Dude1286, which is going to be next Friday. No, a week from Friday on December 1st. Well, we're going to be talking about the achievements that we've been working on throughout the last month. So, all right. With that said,
I just want to address one thing. Dempsey says me enters chat, Ryan. Oh no, yeah, because I've seen you in the chat before, and I know how you do. So don't. And you, it's like,
oh no.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
I like how Melee K said here that she has an Oreo hangover, but good otherwise due to her stream last night.
God, I popped into that stream at just the right time where everybody was just spamming donations, and so that entire pack of cookies just went right then and there.
I'm sorry. That's I got to do something like that on my stream. Just my wife will hate me for it because it's like I had congestive heart failure. I don't anymore, but I did for a while, and the doctors told me to lay off of sugar and things like that. It wasn't the sugar or anything that caused it. It was actually, they think, a medication I had 30 years ago, which is amazing. But, ever since then, she always wants me to watch what I eat. And if I get a pack of Oreos, I hear about it for 20 minutes. So I'm like,
what you saying,
if I do one of these streams where I have to like chomp Oreos, she's just going to like, you're going to actually see in the stream. She'll probably come. You'll probably see me getting ripped down.
Ripped to shreds in the chat.
What you got to do is you got to order like 2 or 3 of those hurricane pizzas, like the 24-inch ones.
Oh.
And then just like, yeah, for every $5, I'll eat another slice.
What up,
And
Paul?
Speaking of, Paul Hugan hops in the chat right after I mentioned
Paul
him.
Dukin.
I would just like to say for the record, Power Couch Nation for the win. That's right.
All right. Well, with that, we'll get into our first
Neil's
question.
like,
So
what?
we might have talked about this, I think, on like episode 2 or 3 or something very similar. But I was talking to Adam and asking if he had any suggestions for topics for today, and he threw out the topic for what is your favorite, or what is I guess the best way to put it is what is your guilty pleasure game? And what I know some people have kind of different interpretations of that. When I think guilty pleasure, I think of it as a game that's not good, but you enjoy it anyways. And so since Adam threw that out, I want to start with Adam. What's your guilty pleasure game?
I would actually say Fairy Tale Fights. It's one probably nobody ever heard of.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it was back on the Xbox 360. I really enjoyed it. It was actually kind of one of those warped tales, like a little more comical version of like American McGee, if you know about those games, the Alice games.
Oh yeah, the Alice games.
Yeah. More along those lines where the fairy tale creatures are just fighting each other for no apparent reason. It's not a melee, it's not a brawl kind of game. It does have an actual story.
Not a Smash Bros clone, is it?
No.
Okay.
No. I would say that that is very much a guilty pleasure game. The only downside to it is they released it in such a broken state that there is like the very final boss battle. Once you get to it, you can't beat it because the screen will not stop tearing. It will not stop sending your character from over here to over here, and you almost can't get past the boss battle. Eventually, we had to just watch the video from the developer to find out what happened at the end.
Okay. Yeah, I will have to check that out because I am not familiar with that game. But all right, cool. And Paul hopping in here with Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. Yeah, understandable.
I figured he'd say like Leisure Suit Larry or something.
Volleyball's
He's a degenerate kind of like I am.
Listen, it's a very good volleyball simulator.
It's funny when I worked at Best Buy. When I worked at Best Buy for the very first time, Leisure Suit Larry came out around, I want to say the same time as the Playboy game, which was on the PS2. And there was a guy that came in and he was like, I want Leisure Suit Larry. Like he looked like he was jonesing, like he was coming down from something. He was like, I need the Playboy game. I need the Playboy. I was like, I don't think Playboy has a game, or they had one coming out.
Yeah.
He's like, no, it has to come out now. And I was like, I actually looked it up and it was coming out like 2 days later. And we did have it in the back, but I couldn't sell it before the street date, Yeah, and then I was like, we have Leisure Suit Larry, and he just literally grabbed it, and he grabbed it, ran up to the front, and then yelled "F you" to me. And I was like,
I mean, that sounds to me like a pretty good argument for the ease of access to pornography these days. Because, like, well, at least dudes like that don't have to bother Best Buy employees.
I was gonna say it used to be so easy to kink shame people back in the day. Now they just order it from Amazon, and nobody knows what it is.
I mean,
Unless you're a female and it starts vibrating in the package, and you're like, girlfriend, what's up?
And what's your number? I mean, hi.
I mean, they don't come charged, right? Or do they? I don't know.
Amazon, no, they don't charge.
Ryan, you would know the answer.
I would know the answer. Yeah, I've delivered packages for a long time now, and
the Amazon kind.
Yeah, and I didn't mean it that way.
He calls his package the Amazon.
Yeah, I got the big package.
I
for
call
you.
my
She's
wife
like,
the Amazon.
But I've heard that I've never played it, but I have heard that the Dead or Alive volleyball games are actually pretty good volleyball games.
Yeah, Dead or Alive fighting games are good fighting games too.
I played a little bit of DOA 3 back in the day because my roommate had it. I've never been into fighting games because I'm terrible at them. But
I put a fair amount of time recently into DOA 6, and it is quite good. It's
just terrible with the microtransactions.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, at the same time, you can just wait till get it on sale somewhere where you can get like a package with all the base characters, and then if you want to get DLC characters, get them. But ultimately, like, try to get good with like 2 or 3 characters before you start spending a bunch of money. The only one I got is my Shinranui from King of Fighters. And that's just because it's and I'm easily marketed to with anime.
I like Dempsey's Archer reference there. Phrasing.
Phrasing, and it's saying that Hollow Cure, Save the Fans. Never even heard of it. Oh, it's a Vampire Survivors type game. Cool. Yeah, I've not played Vampire Survivors, but I know it has been very popular. So.
Awesome. Yeah, Vampire Survivors is good stuff.
Yeah, I do plan to play it at some point. Charlie, do you have a guilty pleasure game?
Let me close my incognito window first. Hang on. Let's see. The one I'm thinking of, the game that's supposed to be bad, but like I've had it since childhood. Anybody remember Booger Man for the Genesis?
Never even.
I remember hearing about it, but I don't remember ever playing it.
It's the same company that did Earthworm Jim.
Okay.
And you basically play as like this eccentric millionaire janitor who like runs around as a superhero, just flicking boogers at monsters. And like burping and like farting to fly and all that. And
kind of sounds like
that message.
And it's people just like panic because like the gross out humor and all that. But if you look at it, the animation really is quite nice, especially for a Genesis game. Okay. It's just like a
nice. The animation about farting on somebody is very nice animation.
Yeah, that's where half of my soundboard comes from. Just the cool and dude.
The studio that it came from, was it Shiny Interactive?
Interplay.
Just Interplay. Okay, yeah, Interplay being the parent company. Yeah, Shiny though did I think had something to do with Earthworm Jim, but they also did MDK, Murder Death Kill.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Third-person shooter on PC.
Nice.
And Classic Vigilante coming in here with the reboot of the Tomb Raider franchise. Not well written, but really liked it anyways. Cool. I haven't heard much about the rebooted franchise one way or the other, so I don't know how well regarded it was.
I mean, like the one with like Rise of the Tomb Raider and Shadow. You didn't hear much about that? Like those they were a big deal. Like they remember the whole thing with like Xbox getting exclusivity for Rise of the Tomb Raider. It was pretty big news for a while. That's all I'm saying. No.
I think I've only played like one Tomb Raider game on the 360, so I haven't really followed the Tomb Raider stuff.
To this
very
day,
much,
Tomb Raider Legend is still my favorite one.
I think that's the one I played. I'll have to go back.
Tomb Raider Legend was awesome.
That was one of the Crystal Dynamics ones when Amy Hennig, I believe, was still there. And then the reboot series though is the one that they did with Tomb Raider 2013 when they made it on more of an Arkham type game, and she's on the island, and it's kind of like a Sony movie game in a bunch of ways at the same time too.
Yeah, it's a big hit with like normies, but like a lot of people who like love the Tomb Raider franchise are not massive fans.
Okay.
Melanie Mack, for example, she's a massive advocate for the fact that she hates them.
I
because
like
it's
2013. 2013, I think, is good. Rise of the Tomb Raider is not as good, and I didn't finish Shadow, so I don't know.
yeah. No,
They're
I think the
fun.
2013 was promising, but they they did certain things to they changed the character on purpose, and they said that they were going to do that, and it's and so a lot of people that rubbed the wrong way because they're like, okay, well now you're fundamentally changing a character because of social issues, and so a lot of people were irritated by that.
Well, I think
Okay,
the
so
bigger problem I had with it was just they just kept making it. It just continued to be an origin story for like for 3.
Yeah, yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
hey,
three
come on! Like,
games.
she's already like, she's got the 2 pistols at the end of the first game. Can we just have her be Lara Croft now? It's like,
Yeah,
okay.
now it's and then the second one she rises, and in the third
Yeah.
one there's a shadow. It's like, wait, come on,
Shadow of
A lot
the
of
Rise, the
gasping
fall
is
of the
there,
Tomb
recall.
Raider.
how about that? Just like,
So I just looked it up. I
I-
did
I-
play Tomb Raider Anniversary and Legend. So I did play 2 of them.
Anniversary was a lot of fun, and then of course Tomb Raider Underworld was kind of the last of that trilogy.
Okay.
I thought they were going to continue from that point, and I was very excited about it. And so when I played 2013, I did like it, but the thing is that I didn't like it as much as I liked Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld. The combination of that. So
Okay.
I really enjoyed the newer Tomb Raider games. What I did like about it, I mean, I saw why it would upset a lot of people, but I really like that they really made her look, especially her look. They made her look like an actual Tomb Raider would look, without, it always just seemed, and this might just be me, with her going around and doing all these adventures in short shorts, and yet, if you were to actually do an adventure like this, there's no way you wouldn't have pants on because, you've got bugs, you've got things that are going to kill you, you got things that are going to slice you. I always like the way that they made her look more realistic instead of just real blocky and real,
well, I mean,
less animated, so to speak.
The blockiness is that's a factor of the technology, not the art design,
Right.
But
I really like that they made her more realistic and more relatable.
Bathing suit versus like, well, but I mean, to be fair, like she's wearing a tank top and all. In the new series, it's not like she's armored up and ready to go, like wearing climbing gear the entire game. And honestly, I don't think you want that anyways, because she's a superhero, right? Like she's like Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones probably wouldn't have his hat through 90% of the stuff that he had through, but it's
well, you notice he loses his hat and magically gets it back like how many times? Like it just happens to blow in the wind.
Yeah, I mean, Lara Croft used to have flotation devices, and now she's kind of screwed.
I mean, and look, and I understand, like getting rid of the blockiness, that's fine. It's product technology. The thing is that when you, and of course, they actually had a model for the new games. And I saw interviews with her, and I thought the technology for like capturing all the like death scenes was pretty entertaining. This is back when Conan was on like TBS or whatever. He had the his show.
Clueless Gamer.
yeah, Clueless Gamer's hysterical. And so I thought the fact that like they recorded all the death scenes was like really kind of cool. I get it. I mean, she was based off a model, which is great, but a lot of people kind of feel like they changed, kind of changed things fundamentally, I guess, in a sense. It didn't really super bother me. But I can understand where some people were coming from because you kind of took the legacy of what was before and you altered it. And then of course, kind of like what Mark said is that she was like, it was an origin story for 3 whole games. And it's like, that was too much in my opinion. It's like and then, so I don't know. It just, I mean, I get it. I get where some people are coming from, but at the same time, I like the first game. I played the whole thing.
Right.
I have not played the second or third, but I eventually do want to because I would like to complete it just for. But I'll wait till it's like 60% off on Steam.
But don't you think like sometimes origin stories should be altered? Like look at how many times they've altered Batman's origin story. I mean, when he first came out, he had no problems with killing and using guns. Now he won't do that.
Well, but I mean,
a lot of people will argue that fundamentally changes the character. It's no longer Batman.
That's kind of one of the big reasons people were pissed about the Snyder Batman, because he flat out shoots someone with a gun.
Like I'll be the first to say I don't like Dark Superman. Is a massive fan of Superman growing up. I didn't like the Snyder version. I thought Henry Cavill was incredible as Superman, but I didn't like the way it was written.
Did you watch?
So
No, it's not technically Superman, but did you see Brightburn?
I
Yeah.
did not know. No,
Okay,
I did
just
not.
curious what you thought
James Gunn produced that, and now he's doing actual Superman. But I think, like, as far as addressing the changing origin stories thing, it's like, I mean, yeah, you can if you want. Although Lara Croft's origin, I mean, there was I think a flashback in the fourth Tomb Raider Revelations, was it, that you had the training area where you're 16-year-old Lara, and that was kind of like supposed to be an origin type deal. But the whole thing with Rise of the Tomb Raider also being an origin story after 2013 was an origin story that flat out ends with her grabbing 2 pistols and using them to kill the last boss in what's basically a quick time event. But it's very much like, hey, here's where she got her idea to use 2 pistols, and that would make her able to take on things like this. But instead, it's like, okay, no, she's back to 1 pistol. Rise of the Tomb Raider, and now she's going to learn how to really be Lara Croft. It's like, wait, didn't she just learn that in the previous game? And they did it kind of again in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, because that's basically all about her causing a bunch of disasters because of the things that she's doing is leading towards this cult, basically, or like this organization causing this big flood in South America. And then the whole game kind of deals with the aftermath of that and presents it like this was all Lara's fault. And it just kind of seemed like, okay, well, it's making it an edgy take on a character that doesn't need to be edgy because she's a pulp adventure hero and could just be having adventures that are fun and people look forward to, you know, whereas like trying to make everything Batman Begins is not necessarily the best idea. I thought the funniest thing was when, I remember that movie, Rise of Hannibal? The Hannibal Lecter origin story movie that was basically just Batman Begins, but it's Hannibal Lecter. It was hilarious. I strongly recommend watching it because it's funny, and especially if you have that in mind.
Intentionally or unintentionally funny?
No. It's unintentionally funny because it really seems like a bunch of producers said, okay, what if we do, which licenses do we have? We got Silence of the Lambs. Okay, cool. Let's do Batman Begins, but it's Hannibal Lecter. And like, there's a scene where he's like training to become a samurai and shit. Like it's really kind of amazing in a lot of ways.
Okay.
But you know what I mean? Like Rise of the Tomb Raider, sorry, not even Rise of the Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider 2013 was already the Lara Croft Batman Begins. And then they just did Lara Croft Batman Begins again. And then I don't know, Dark Knight Rises Lara Croft, I guess, where everything's like she's worried about the ramifications of her actions and thinks that she might be as bad as the people that she's fighting against. And I don't know, like remember when Lara Croft was Indiana Jones, you know, like
I remember
times
with Indiana Jones too.
All right, well, Mark, what's a guilty pleasure game of yours?
I don't know, I guess for a while it was Cyberpunk, but most people like agree that Cyberpunk's pretty good now, so not sure.
It totally makes sense.
I don't like secretly play any game. I stream most of the games I play, so like it's very rare that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pop up my Steam Deck and finally play some Dead or Alive Extreme Beach Volleyball. I mean, realistically, if I stream DOA volleyball, I'd probably get a fair amount of views. So
Charlie and I were talking on our podcast here that started about 10:30 this morning that it's funny that at the Game Awards, Cyberpunk has more nominations this year than it did the year that it was originally released.
I mean, yeah, it is a better game. No, in fairness, it makes sense that would be the case. And I'm a person who didn't think it was terrible when it came out. Thought it wasn't that great, but I did enjoy my time with it at the same time. But I think ongoing game is the weird thing it got nominated for, because it's like, well, they flat out said that we're not making any more Cyberpunk games, and it's just or Cyberpunk DLC, and we're just going to work on the sequel. So it's like, is it an ongoing game or?
Yeah, it's not a live service.
I like the categories, the Game Awards, they bother me so much because they really seem like they were written by ChatGPT.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I was looking at the category for what was it, best streamer. I've heard of none of these people.
Yeah, I probably haven't either. I don't.
That's because probably nobody watches them. Like, I'm
Like, how do I get my
I'm
name
being
on
dead
that
serious.
list?
I think
it's
it was best content creator, and my bet is most of those people are on like TikTok or something.
Oh, okay.
well, it's one of those things too, is that like if you see like when Hollywood gives themselves awards, like everybody's like, who voted on this movie? Like, who's watching this movie? Like, and it's like nobody watched the movie. It's
That's
just
one of the things that I was talking about with Adam on open mic the other night is like, are these voted on by the fans or by a committee? Because that's going to give you two drastically different answers.
It's both, but it's like 80% committee, 20% fan, like a viewer voted tilt.
Well, you were asking about the joystick awards, the golden joysticks. I have no idea how those are voted on. I know the Game Awards are supposed to be fans, but I don't think it 100% is.
No, it's not. It's not even close to 50%. It's like 20% is what the viewers vote goes towards, and I'm willing to bet they could overrule it. Like if the viewer's choice votes in a way that pushes a game that most of the people on the panels didn't vote for to be the winner, I'm willing to bet they veto it. So, I mean, ultimately, it's probably just various people who work at different game outlets that get together and just decide it. If you, Mr. Matty Plays has a recent video, I think, about the Xbox tax idea, the idea that things get rated lower just because they're on Xbox. Yeah, I mean, he doesn't propagate it. He basically just kind of says what he thinks going on with the Game Awards and why so few of the Xbox games got as much love as they did. He basically says it's mostly justified, but also that he'd been asked to be on these panels for the Game Awards things to pick the winners for. And apparently when it comes to the nominees, they're just like, what are the nominees? It's like, I don't know, what are 5 games people like this year? And then like the people who are around are just like, oh, I really like Alan Wake. I really like Super Mario Wonder. I was like, okay, those are the ones we'll nominate. Like they really don't think about them very hard at all. And I honestly think ChatGPT made the categories because some of them make no. Lies of P is just not an RPG. It isn't. It's an action game. It is. It's an action game.
Is it nominated in RPG category?
It's nominated in the RPG category, and I think it has one other nomination, but it's like a technical award, like art direction or something. It's not like director or I don't know, game design.
I'm surprised Best Horror Game doesn't have its own segment at the Game Awards. But then again, like we were saying in our show, like what constitute a horror game? A lot of them are more science fiction with horror elements.
Well, I think a horror game, you could say that where the majority of the time is spent in tense situations where the player is not sure how safe they are. I think it is a safe way to define a horror game. So, I mean, it's one of those things. The genre is tough when it comes to video games because with a movie, you can just talk about the general genre of the work. So sci-fi, fantasy, but in video games, it's not just presentation, it's also game design. So it's not just the setting, it's also what is the gameplay like? Is it a shooter? Is it really focused on cinematic storytelling? Is it focused on storytelling, but it's a role-playing game, so it's all text-based, and you're encouraged to go read, notes that you find around. Like, I mean, there's a bunch of different ways in which games are made, so it is sort of hard to compare them against each other directly, unless you make the categories very clear, which I think you can do with gameplay style categories. Saying an action game is something to be like, hey, what are you doing most of the time? You're fighting stuff. That is what an action game is. An action game is just in a game where you're fighting stuff most of the time. You can maybe make the subcategory of shooter, and that the only difference is okay, you're shooting though more so than punching or swinging swords.
Well, like I would say that like Resident Evil 2 would be a horror game, but Resident Evil 4 is the remake of it's more like a thriller.
Because I would put that in the action game category because I would you could maybe call it a shooter, but it doesn't play like most shooters, and there are a lot of very almost kind of Devil May Cry-ish elements to the combat where you shoot people on the ground and then they go down, but then you get a prompt that you can do a critical attack on, and like Leon is like an anime protagonist more so than any other Resident Evil player character was prior to that. And it makes the game play much more like an action game. I think, honestly, I'd probably have a hard time calling Resident Evil 4 a horror game.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a horror game. I would say Silent Hill is a horror game.
Yeah.
I love the Silent Hill franchise. They play very, very horror-esque. There's not a lot of I mean, yes, you have to kill the monsters, but no, you're not really, it's not action based. It's more about the the creepiness of like you're not seeing around a corner, especially Silent Hill 2. I mean, you turn the lights off and play that game, even to this day, it's still creepy the hell out. So
Yeah, and we had
Yeah.
Nerd Porio hopping in the chat. What's up, man? Good to see you. So
hey,
I saw
hold on a
Dempsey.
sec. Real quick, he says Nerdy Neo once jumped into a pool. Nerdy Neo did not get wet. The pool got Nerdy Neo'd. What the heck does that mean?
I'm
Come
Chuck
on,
Norris,
you gotta,
apparently.
you gotta read those gems, man. Like,
So, Ryan, given your ridiculous background, I'm sure you've got something good for a guilty pleasure game.
oh, I have an excellent guilty pleasure game because people hate the game to this day. And it came out not too long ago. And it goes kind of in line of, and it's going to kind of sound hypocritical, given what we just talked about with Tomb Raider. I like Fallout 76, the original version, not the way they've remastered it. The original version where everybody's gone and there's like and I know that's such a hot take, but I did like it because it was different. So I mean, I completely get it. And a lot of people are like, well, it's not Fallout if you don't have NPCs and people surviving in the wasteland. And I completely get that. So yeah, it's a very, very hot take because I still like the game to this day. And a lot of people just loathe it.
I've heard it's had a bit of a redemption arc, but I don't know how well it's recovered. Because I know like probably one of the probably the two peak games for like launching in a terrible state that have turned into good. Number one is No Man's Sky and probably Cyberpunk. So I don't know how well.
I would say
Fallout
that
76
I'd say
turned
No
into a
Man's
good
Sky
game.
and Cyberpunk, they launched worse than Fallout 76, but not by much. As somebody who I was a part of the beta crew, beta test crew, it was pretty darn broken. You would just you get stuck on things. It would just lock up and freeze your whatever you were playing on, whether it be it just it had a lot of problems. But no, it's had a redemption because the with alternating like free weekends of like, oh, you can jump in for free on this weekend and try it, and it got people to come back. And now I think it is pretty good, but there's still a lot of hardcore Fallout fans who think that the Bethesda Fallout games are not Fallout games, and I get that
Yeah,
too.
understandable.
I get that too.
I
Nearly
do.
Kate hopping
I do
in
want to
with,
answer Dempsey's question though.
final-
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Kay hopping in with her guilty pleasure, Final Fantasy X-2, to the point where it's her second favorite, with the U in there, second favorite Final Fantasy. So, were you going to talk about Dempsey and the Dante's Inferno?
Yeah. Dempsey had asked, would I consider, or would we consider Dante's Inferno a horror game? No,
I would say no.
I would say that's a God of War action slasher clone.
Yeah,
horror elements, but no, not a horror game.
Yeah. All right. And then for me, I probably have a couple, but one that I don't really talk about. I've mentioned it once or twice before on stream, but I haven't talked about it a lot. But a guilty pleasure game of mine is the entire Crackdown franchise, 1, 2, and 3. I really enjoyed all three of them. Even though 2 is basically, they literally reused the exact same map from the first one. And just changed it from gangsters to basically zombies, but they call them freaks. And they added a couple of quality of life improvements, so it's almost more like a DLC. But I did really enjoy that one. And then Crackdown 3 got a lot of hate, but I don't understand why so many people hated it so much, because it was just more of what you would expect from a Crackdown game in a new city, and I loved it. I had a lot of fun with it. I know one of the big things was that it was supposed to be like the poster child for this new cloud computing, which kind of got scrapped. The whole full destruction was in the multiplayer, not in the single player. But I didn't think it really ruined the game for me. I still had a lot of fun in all three Crackdowns games.
That was Terry Crews was in the third one, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was the basically the face of the game in the marketing, and he was actually in the opening cutscene. I know he was like in the beginning. There was only like 1 or 2 cutscenes in the game, like at the beginning and at the end. But yeah, he was in the cutscene at the beginning of the game too, and he was pretty funny. I pretty much love him in anything.
Yeah, I'm glad that he was in a good portion of it. I hate when they promote like, oh, this big celebrity, big person is going to be, or big character is even going to be the part of the game, and then they show up for like 10 minutes.
Yeah. James is hopping in here. What's up, James? Saying that his guilty pleasure is Honey Pop. He has mentioned that a lot. I don't know anything about that game, but he does like that, and he also liked Crackdown 3. So, all right.
Sounds like
Yeah,
James
James,
and
I
his new
understand the
favorite
honey
guilty
pop thing.
pleasures, Oreos.
All right. Well, I'm going to start off question number 2 because I don't want anyone to steal my answer. My answer to this one was also the inspiration for the question. So I kind of edited a little bit because I wrote it down initially as like, what's the most interesting boss fight? But I also wanted to expand that a little to what's your favorite boss fight? And so for me, probably one of the most innovative boss fights I think I've ever done was the Mr. Freeze fight in Arkham City. It was very creative, very clever, because every time you use a new takedown on him, you can no longer use that takedown on him again. So you have to be really creative and make sure you use everything at your disposal and take him down all these different ways in order to beat him.
Not only that, it was, I swear to God, the only boss fight in the entire franchise that didn't just throw a bunch of minions at you. And that's one of my pet peeves as far as video game bosses go, is no, this is supposed to be a one-on-one. I've worked my way up to you. I'm going in with what I got. You're coming in with what you got. Leave all your little baby boys at home.
Yeah. So that was the inspiration for the question. I didn't want anyone to steal mine in case that was theirs as well. So, Charlie, what about you? Do you have a favorite or most interesting boss fight?
Yeah, it's I was thinking about it, and Mr. Freeze was a good answer. I was also thinking for myself from the end of No More Heroes 2, the Jasper Bad Jr., that whole 3-phase fight, because they're just so wildly different and frankly pretty funny to me. And also probably one of the most challenging ones and rewarding, because the boss starts off in his little car and you just beat him up, and then he just morphs into this giant superhero, and you have to basically wrestle back and forth. Like, not only do you suplex him, and that's how you make progress, but you can also suplex you and really mess you up. And then once you manage to get past that, then he turns into this giant parade balloon, and then it's kind of like your victory lap there.
Yeah, I don't know much about the No More Heroes franchise, but it's pretty wacky, right?
It's wild.
It's probably Suda51's weirdest game, and that's saying something.
Whose weirdest game?
Suda51.
Suda51. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. What about you, Cyclops? What's a favorite or most interesting boss fight of yours?
I won't give any spoilers away because it's a brand new game, but I would say at least of most recent memory, my fight against Venom in the new Spider-Man game.
Okay.
And it's just because of how structured it is. Without really giving too much away, you can tell that they probably had some ideas for the first game that maybe got scrapped, that got recycled for the second game, and they made it work so well. It's such a seamless transition. You don't even realize that you're like, a lot of times you don't even realize you're going into a second part of this until suddenly you're there. I would probably say that, so that's my favorite of most recent memory. But my favorite, I don't know if this would be favorite of all time, but I really liked fighting Ares at the end of the first God of War.
Okay, cool.
And that was because, at least at that time for me, multi-part boss battles weren't really a big thing back then. Like, this wasn't necessarily the first game that did it, but this was the first game that utilized it in a way that was so, I don't know, that was so mind-boggling, because you went up against him and you didn't really have all these minions, like Charlie was saying. You didn't really have all these minions that were coming after you. You really were just going you versus Ares, and you are going to mess each other up. Oh, by the way, second part of the boss battle, he's going to screw with your head, because now you've got a bunch of yous running around trying to kill your family. By the way, that family over there isn't exactly real either, and then mess with your head. And then, of course, you had to go back into another big battle with just you and him. And he was pretty powerful, at least for video game bosses at the time.
Cool. I got a couple from the chat. James is saying that one of his favorites was Alma from Fear 2, which he talked about Fear when he was on Party Chat a few weeks ago. Like, you know. Yeah, I bet that was probably a freaky one because I know Alma is pretty creepy. And Nerdporial coming in with Wart from Super Mario 2, way back in the day. So
I see. Melee also said, "Please don't mention Oreos."
Yeah, don't mention Oreos.
He had a boss battle
Double
against
stuffed.
So what, Mark? What about you? What's a favorite or most interesting boss fight of yours?
I'd say probably my favorite. I don't know, favorite ever. I'm trying to debate between. It might either be Owl in Sekiro.
Oh, I just saw someone mention that in Discord earlier today about something. It's funny that you bring it up.
I did a reaction on my channel to Mauler fighting him. Mauler beat him on his like third attempt, and that probably took me like 10 hours to crack.
Oh my goodness.
It was a hard fight, but recently though, I think Luxasia the Complete from Liza P was one hell of a fight.
Was that the one you talked about last time about beating it on your first try on this New Game Plus?
Yeah, well, not New Game Plus, on my second fresh run. Because what happened?
Oh, okay, I misunderstood you.
So I played that game on Game Pass. I finished it, and then I played it again on Steam. So I wasn't carrying any progress over. It was a total fresh run. I beat it 22 levels lower than I beat it on Game Pass. So my character on Game Pass is actually still more powerful than my Steam character, even though I'm like halfway through New Game Plus now, or like a quarter of the way through, realistically.
Nice. Yeah, you sent me the link to that video afterwards. I watched that. That was pretty impressive.
Liza P has some of the best boss fights kind of ever. So I would strongly recommend playing that game if you like fighting bosses, because it's got some good ones.
All right. Nerdporial's heading out. Glad you could hop in for a little bit. Good seeing you, Nerdporial. I will catch you later. All right. Ryan, I'm almost nervous to hear what your answer is.
You're nervous to hear what my answer is? Wow. I didn't realize that was that controversial. If I had to go classic, I would probably say one of the ones that I remember most is going to be probably, let's just say, I don't know if I have a favorite. Well, I'll just say one that's always been very memorable. It was Pyramid Head from Silent Hill 2, because that was the very first scary game I ever played. And
Okay.
my buddy and I, so like, back when we were like younger, we were in like late middle school. I can't remember. Anyway, hanging out on a Saturday night, and we freaking, back when you used to rent games, right? They don't really do that anymore. And we were playing that, and freaking like that game freaked us the heck out, right? So that was very memorable. So I'll say current day, and again, this is going to be kind of a hot take, kind of like like one of my guilty pleasure games. I really like the boss fight in Fallout 76. When everybody comes together, the whole server comes together and just nukes the scorched beast queen or whatever. And it's only because like, yeah, it's basically, so it's an MMO game, but like everybody comes together and just like, it's just like shooting her, and it's just a lot of fun. Especially because I'm there in my power armor, and I got like carrying my 50 counts, and it's a lot of fun. Again, a lot of people don't like that game, but I think classic boss fights are a lot more, classic bosses from older games are just more fun. Like I remember I loved fighting Darth Malak, and obviously Knights of the Old Republic. You guys know it's one of my favorites. Darth Nihilus was a lot of fun. I was kind of I was a little disappointed he wasn't kind of the final guy. But because I really liked that character, I thought he was more interesting than the two later, bad guys that you fight. So yeah, like I said, I there's some that are just memorable. I don't know if I'd necessarily have a favorite. I will say this though, thank God that Knights of the Old Republic remake is dead, because
Yeah,
they're gonna
I agree.
screw it up.
Yeah, Mark said it perfectly well in his video.
Mr. Matty Plays had speaking of him earlier from the podcast. Yeah, he had another thing to say about that on his channel earlier today. That was interesting.
If they would have did a remaster, I'm all for it. But they were doing a remake, and they were bringing the actress that plays Bastille in to read lines. There's thousands of hours of dialogue in that game. You don't need to redo anything other than the graphics and probably some of the. I even like the combat, but still, I'm kind of glad it's DOA because
Yeah,
they were going to
needs
mess
is a new
with
coat
my
of paint.
favorite game in history, and I knew they were going to mess it up.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
90% of the people who I was talking to about it as that game was announced would still say, "Oh yeah, but they got to change the combat," and I'm like, "No, they don't." And I think
Yeah,
Baldur's
I
Gate
see.
3
I
is
agree.
bad.
I don't think they knew.
I mean,
I love turn based.
Yeah, I would probably prefer it, but I wouldn't want them to change it.
CRPG combat though is good. Like that's the thing. It's not the same, but it's also good. Otherwise, Baldur's Gate 3 wouldn't be the most likely game of the year winner from the majority of people that are, rating it.
Yeah.
So I could see an argument for Tears of the Kingdom. I think those are the only ones that I'd probably put at the top, though.
Yeah, I think because Adam and I were talking about that on open mic, and I think that's what I said too. Even though I haven't played either of them, I'd probably put those at the top.
Lies of P is actually my personal one, but that's not getting nominated by anyone. It's a crime, if you ask me. But
Snubbed.
you should
And
play it.
Dempsey's coming in with the Aphrodite boss fight from God of War 3. Cool. And then one thing that I didn't.
That's not a boss fight.
That's more of a sex scene.
I haven't played it, so I don't know.
You're just doing a special hug.
Neo, you're killing us, dude. Like,
Boss fight.
you fell for that.
I haven't played it, so I don't know.
Well, obviously, with the old God of War or whatever. So, like, I think the reboot of it, I will say, was, I think those were pretty interesting.
Like, I mean, it's kind of a, like, I mean, they do, they're sequels that do consider the first series canon.
Yeah, it's kind of a soft reboot. And so I thought, I know some people didn't care for Ragnarok. I thought Ragnarok was cool.
I loved it. I thought it was
so
good.
I mean, I think it just depends on where. Again, sometimes when you change stuff, there are people who like it, and there are people who don't like it. I get all sides of that coin. So, but no, the classic ones, man, the classic God of Wars are. I mean, it's the reason that they're just awesome.
Well, you got to think though. I mean, the original God of Wars had how many games? What, like 5, 6?
I think there's like 5
mainline ones, and then 3 spin-offs.
So you got those, and they've got nostalgia behind them too. Now you've got these newer ones, which are fantastic. And if these had come out first, everyone would say they'd like these ones better.
I would probably agree with that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that I agree with that because it's hard to think of games of even this format, even if you like scale down the visuals, but just of like the over the shoulder camera kind of. That just wasn't really a thing back in the early 2000s. So it's hard to think of what a world would look like where these games as they are came out first. But if you're talking about just these stories, I don't know, man. I think God of War 2018 or 2018, 2019, 2018, right?
2018, wasn't it?
God of War 4 and Ragnarok, I think are like, honestly, I think the writing is what would have people remembering them. But at the same time, I think the Greek mythology saga it's different. It's got its own tone to it, and I think that you can't have the story of God of War 2018 or Ragnarok without the Kratos that you get from the original games. So
I would agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, they really hammer it that he used to be this monster, and he's trying not to be that guy anymore.
I was kind of thinking of it more in this sense of like if let's say the 2013 Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb, all that kind of stuff. I think if it came out first, I think people probably would have really liked it. It would have been kind of a unique story in a sense, but because. So I mean, I can understand that, but yeah, no, we're talking about the God of War games. I mean, it's like he used to be this character, so now, but I do see what Melee K says. Bring back objectifying women in God of War.
God of War.
I mean, the game objectified everybody, so that's where it's like obviously Kratos starts out as like he's just like the specimen, right, and then he becomes a god, and it's like,
he has no personality in the first ones though.
No, he's just a killing machine. He's just a Spartan killing machine.
I disagree. You guys don't get it.
No, I mean he's got a personality, but it's very paper thin. The story itself is very rich, but his personality is like.
Also, no. I think that is that to me is a thing that like a few IGN people said around the time 2018 was coming out that I don't think was ever true. And I think that if you play the God of War games, you'll see that. Like, first of all, do you think him being a father started in God of War 2018?
No, he was a father to Calliope.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and do you not see his relationship with Calliope as it's portrayed in those games as being something that is integral to his character? Is that just something that is? Do you think that's just something that doesn't really matter and they don't focus on?
No, I think they focus on it, but they really focus to get back to the action. I mean, they do show him as a father. They do. I mean, especially in the tie-in games with what was that, Ghost of Sparta, where you went up against Persephone, and yeah. And I mean, you saw how he was hugging his daughter, but when he was very happy to be reunited with her. Spoiler alert. Sorry about that. But then, I mean, once he was pissed off again, suddenly he pushed her off to the side.
That's not what he was doing, though.
Right. But he was right back to that killing machine. It just seems like he goes here and then.
Why did he push Calliope away?
It's been so many years since I played that game, but if I remember right, it's because she pissed him off.
No. The reason he pushed her away is because that was Persephone tricking him into staying there and allowing the Titan to just destroy all of existence, including Elysium, which is where she was. So he was leaving her behind, breaking her heart and his own, because all he wanted to do was stay in Elysium with her. All he wanted to do was stay with her. But he knew
Jose just said it was a trap.
It was like a great power versus great responsibility thing. It was, hey, I could stay here, but here's going to be gone if I don't leave. If I don't abandon her again, then all of existence is now destroyed. So again, like, it's this thing where I'm like, everyone that says Kratos wasn't a character, I'm like, you guys don't remember the games. Like,
it's been a long time since because they came out, what, PlayStation 2?
Yeah, that's when they started.
Yeah, I've slept twice since then. So I don't think he didn't have any character at all.
Right.
It's just like, because obviously he was on this vengeance tour because of what happened to him. So I don't remember all the details though.
No.
I didn't remember it was a trap. So that's like,
Yeah,
thank you, Jose, for that one.
It's a trap. He was written in a way that was befitting for a character of what were 12 to 15 hour long action games, where it's like a pre-rendered and difficult to make at the time cinematic that tells a little bit of story every hour or so. And that's a much different type of game than when you're making a modern sort of Sony movie game format thing where you're constantly trying to dig really deep into the characters and have much more complex storylines and motivations and things happening, not just with Kratos, but with a whole bunch of other characters. Because that's the thing. It's like Kratos was never a thin character. It's just that there weren't a lot of other characters who got any development at all in God of War. And usually the ones who did died, or they were Athena. Like that.
Or they were Athena.
Yeah, like Athena's in most of them, but everyone else is kind of just there for the game that they get killed in, with the exception of Zeus, who's in 2 games. Like it's just a different type of storytelling, I'd argue. But I would say it's as good, and I think that that's worth noting, because I think a lot of people dump on the old style God of War games without understanding really what they are, because they're basing it on memories of when they were like 13 or something, and what they've heard games journalists who also don't put that much effort into their work often. But that's the thing. So they don't put a lot of effort in their work. So they play God of War once, maybe to review it, but maybe still once right before it launched. And then 10 years later, they're being asked what they want from God of War. And they're just like, he was just yelling that whole game, make him a character. It's like, well, he wasn't yelling the whole game. He was yelling, he was killing stuff. And he's killing stuff for a lot of the game because it's an action game.
I think the classic ones are great. So I think they're incomparable, to be honest. I think the new ones are great. So it's yeah. Melee games with Kratos. How's your sex life?
So Jose Gonzalez, hello, thank you for joining us. Says that he's a big fan of the Baldur's boss fight in God of War 2018. Sets the mood big time and helps you understand parries and hits. And he also agrees with your take on the old God of Wars and the character of Kratos. He was a victim of circumstance. So, yeah. And we also had Insidious Bliss hop in. Hello, Insidious Bliss. Thanks for joining us. So, all right. And then one thing that I thought of while we were talking about that, probably not like a amazing boss fight, but was a memorable one and was from something I played earlier this year that just popped into my head was basically the first boss fight in Azura's Wrath. Wyzen was pretty cool because it's a 3-stage boss fight. Where he's a little bit bigger than you in the first phase, and then he becomes like the size of a building in the second boss fight, the second phase, and then he becomes the size of planet Earth, and he tries to crush you with his finger, and you don't grow at all, so you're just tiny, and you get so mad you punch his finger so hard that he explodes. That was pretty cool.
Azura's Wrath is best described as what if Devil May Cry was about gods, was kind of like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and was entirely told in QuickTime events.
Yeah. Yeah, I always say it's basically a playable anime.
Azura's Wrath.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, and some of the other boss fights get even more nuts. It's pretty crazy over the top, but that was a pretty way to start off the game. Yeah, it's 2013, I think it was a 360 game. Yeah,
I finally defeated the jumping puzzle that I've been playing this entire stream.
It's been an hour and 5 minutes.
I got my 4 frog coins though. It's an extra level.
There you go.
I brought it home.
Oh, yeah. James says Bayonetta. Bayonetta had a very similar thing with the final boss fight. It was
yes,
the size of planets,
yes.
and you punch at the very end. You punch. And you have to guide it around the planets so that you can hit the final boss into the sun. So I have played the first one. If I ever end up getting a Switch, I'll probably finally play Bayonettas 2 and 3.
You don't have a Switch, dude?
Nope, not yet.
Come on,
but
bro.
First thing when I do, the first thing I'm getting is Metroid Dread.
Based.
Yes. So, all right. Well, let's see here. Yeah. All right. We're gonna jump down one because I think this will be a little more fun of a topic for this one. So, question 3 for today, depending how long the conversation goes, might be our last one for the day. But what is a game or a franchise that you feel doesn't get the recognition it deserves? So, anyone want to hop in there and go first?
Mad World.
Mad World, okay.
Doesn't get the recognition that it deserves.
Yeah, that was the Wii game that was in black and white, except all the blood was red, right?
Yeah, and you had Greg Proops and John DiMaggio commentating over it the whole time, which introduced me to the phrase, for the last time, nobody said there be math!
I think I have one, the Thing. It came out on PlayStation 2. It was a very good game.
Oh, the Thing game. I think James was talking about that recently when he was talking about the movie, because he says I've heard a lot of people lately say that's one of the best horror movies of all time. I haven't seen it, so
yeah.
No. Here's the Thing. Oh, dude, watch it tonight.
Somebody kick him. Somebody kick him?
Like, no, from my own stream.
It's a really good movie, man. I did a podcast on Quarter Black Garrett's channel talking about it. I love that.
But no,
Zulu in the chat, what's up? And a lot of people saying, yeah, Dread is so good. Dread is fantastic.
Yep.
Dread rules. Yes, I can't wait. It's the only Metroid game I haven't played because I don't
Best 2D one. I'll say it. Better than Super Metroid.
It's nice. Also the answer to a question we may or may not get to today.
Okay. Oh, yeah. That was also my answer for that question. I don't think we're going to get to it, though. So we'll save it for another time.
I would say a game I don't think gets enough credit is The Suffering.
Suffering? I don't even heard of that one.
That was back from the PlayStation 2 days. It was a horror game. It's actually very much based on Eastern State Penitentiary, if you've ever heard of that, a haunted prison in Pennsylvania.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you play as an inmate who may or may not have killed his family. He's been convicted of it, but you learn he might not have been the one that did it. And you're on an island, a prison island, kind of like Alcatraz. And this prison is suddenly overrun by these creatures that you have no idea where they're coming from. But it turns out each creature there is based off of some sort of torture or some sort of legend that is tied to the island. And then you have the choice. You can either try and stay. It was one of those that gave you a choice, and you could kind of stay more of like the good guy route, battling these creatures and helping people get off the island, or you could become a monster yourself and basically become part of the island's lore. And then there was a sequel that came out after that they pretty much forced an ending on there to jump off from. So most people did the good guy ending, so they kind of jumped off from there, and then it brought everything from the island to the mainland, and it was actually Michael Clark Duncan who was the voice of one of the prisoners in the sequel.
Okay.
But I would say also that has one of the best silent protagonists of all time with
interesting. So that was a little nod to something we just talked about a moment ago. And we got a couple of where did it go? Couple from the chat saying maybe Mark knows this one. Suikoden.
Yeah, it's really good.
Suikoden. I'm assuming it's an anime thing. I have no idea what that is.
It's a Japanese role-playing game. It was Konami, but now I believe NIS America, I think, is putting out a remake of it. And Suikoden 1 and 2, I think, are coming out February. I want to say around the same time as the Persona one.
Cool. And then James is saying Enslaved Odyssey to the West is very underrated game. I've heard lots of good things about it.
It is an adaptation of the same story which Dragon Ball is an adaptation of, as well as the upcoming Black Myth Wukong.
I talked about Black Myth Wukong and Open Mic with Adam the other night when we were talking about games that are upcoming that we're really anticipating.
They're all adaptations of the
Monkey
story
King.
of the Monkey King.
Yeah. And then James also says The Darkness is one of his favorites, and definitely an underrated game. So
I would also say The Punisher, the first game, is probably one of the most underrated games because a lot of people look at it and it was pretty much a tie-in for the movie, but it's one that worked.
I just saw that on a list recently, a list video. I think that game was almost rated adults only because it's so violent.
It did. It got the adults only. They had to tone it down. Which is funny. The only way they toned it down was they just made it in black and white. So you saw the most violent executions happen in black and white, and it's like it's still there. That almost makes it worse. So
that was that modeled after Thomas Jane Punisher.
Yeah. Okay. Thomas Jane actually came on and did the voice of the Punisher in the video game, and the game actually works as a bit of a follow-up to the movie.
It was weird though, they didn't have his likeness, so the Punisher just kind of looks like comic book Punisher.
Look like the dollar store Avengers from the recent Avengers game.
I mean, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Better game though.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that Punisher game, but no, I've never played it, so maybe I'll have to rectify that.
I would say people will often compare it to the Max Payne games, and I think honestly, without the torture stuff, I don't think it would be as well liked as it is. That said, it's definitely pretty good. It's fun.
The interrogation scenes, which at that time it was like, oh, by the way, hold the stick right here. Oh, by the way, we're gonna move this around while you're still trying to.
So, Mark, what is an underrated game or franchise that doesn't get the recognition it deserves?
I guess today I'm going to go with a Medieval. AMID space EVIL. And it is a first-person shooter franchise that is released by a company called New Blood. And it's the game that every time someone says, oh man, like it would be really great if we got another Hexen game, I'm just like, just play a Medieval. It's like fantasy FPS that is so much fun. It's really challenging. It looks great. Yeah, I recommend.
Okay. I've not heard of that one because when you said it at first, I was thinking of Medieval, which I think is that like cartoony. You play as that like skeleton with the knight armor. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
In this game, you play as like a alien fantasy creature god warrior thing, and you have a battle axe and whole bunch of different wands that shoot different spells. That basically, there's one thing that's a scepter that shoots planets, and it basically acts as your rocket launcher. So,
I think Jose was there with me thinking about the same game I was. And James is saying that Thomas Jane's the best Punisher. Fight me. I will fight you because I think Ray Stevenson was the best Punisher. Rest in peace.
Yeah, that's
all right. So it's you versus me and James.
You like Thomas Jane Punisher as well?
Yeah, I love that movie. Maybe
I liked him a lot too.
I liked him as Punisher. It's just the movie itself didn't like. It wasn't as good as I thought it could be, but it was still good though.
It had John Panette in it, and that gives points for me.
Which film is this?
The Punisher movie from like the early 2000s, starred Thomas Jane, and then
I want to say it was 2004.
Was it 2004?
Now,
my
why
guess.
I wasn't crazy as much as I really like Thomas Jane as an actor. I actually like John Travolta a lot too, but I wasn't crazy about that one because unlike the game, it was
Oh,
rated
that's 2004.
PG-13, and
No, it was R.
well, I mean, it had like no blood.
It
Yeah,
was
it's not
R.
much
They had
R.
the violence in the language. They just didn't put in a lot of gore like they should have.
Yeah,
To be
it had a
fair,
lot of.
there's a huge nostalgia factor for me, so it could be blinding me a bit. Like if I went back and watched it, I'd probably be more.
It
agreeing
is
with
It
you guys.
was
it is
fine for the
it's a
time. It just
it's a
wasn't
fairly
great.
tame Punisher film. That's all I'm saying. It's not a lot of violence happens. But every other version of it, the Dolph Lundgren one, the Ray Stevenson one, and obviously the John Bernthal one are all significantly more violent than the Thomas Jane one. And
Agreed.
it's also
Isn't the
it has that tone that's a little more mid 2000s, like non X-Men or Spider-Man super. Oh yeah, I guess Spider-Man.
yeah, it should have leaned more towards like how Blade was instead of leaning
Yeah.
more towards like the X-Men or some or Spider-Man. And I do absolutely agree with that because I still think Blade is probably one of the
Yeah.
best Marvel movies ever.
I'd argue
Um
Blade and Blade 2 are two of the best comic book movies ever. So
so
Blade 2 is my favorite of the Blade trilogy.
it's awesome.
yeah,
Dealing
you
with
know,
that
I
Thor one.
think it's my favorite too, to be quite frank. It
I think
really
it was
is.
Guillermo del Toro that did that one too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did the second one.
And Nomak is a great villain. And that actor actually
Yes.
he's the villain in Hellboy 2 as well, who kind of looks similar. It's just like basically they put a wig on him instead of being a shaved headed pale dude. He's a blonde, long haired pale dude.
Hmm.
But yeah, good actor, good performances, and
Actually, I was a little upset when Marvel announced that they were going to remake Blade and then they were going to try to PG-13 it to put him in the MCU. And then
Mhm.
apparently all the problems that they've been having with getting that movie made, they said the script that they turned in only had 2 action sequences, which you can't do that in a Marvel movie. It's like you got to jump from,
You
Or
can't
a
know,
do that in a
movie.
Blade movie.
yeah, well,
Or-
now I guess the writers and the producers and people at Marvel and at Disney have come out and said, okay, we're hearing what the fans want. The script honestly sucked. We're gonna start over, and we will give it an R rating since we're giving Deadpool the R rating. They're gonna give Blade the R rating too.
Well, I mean, I have to say this because as somebody who covers pop culture, it's about freaking time that they decide to start listening to the people that actually pay for their movies.
They've had so many
Because
flops.
yeah,
They better.
I mean, and of course on top of that too, it's nothing against Marshall Ali or anything like that. It's just that like I think he fits the. I think he's probably the only person who probably fits at almost as well, and I say almost because nobody will ever replace Wesley Snipes ever. Um, I think he's a great choice, but yeah, to make it PG-13 to tone down the act. I mean, we're talking about Blade versus vampires here. Like, are you kidding? Like,
Mhm.
it's gotta be action packed. It's got to be violent. It has to.
The only time it worked that it wasn't was in Spider-Man the Animated Series when he was trying to get plasma instead of blood, and they were toning that down for kids. And that kind of worked for its time, but
Yeah, I
all
think
that's
anime
audiences are
definitely.
adults now.
Yeah, I think anime definitely, and it works for anime, but no, live action, it doesn't work. So yeah, and look, melee games, I feel you 1,000%. The Blade. I even liked Blade 3. Yes, I know that's a hot take, but is it as good, anywhere near as good as the first two? No, absolutely not.
No.
But I still, because Wesley Snipes was still in it. And quite frankly, I thought Jessica Biel was awesome in the movie too. Ryan Reynolds, I like Ryan Reynolds. I think he's funny. A lot of people didn't really care for his humor in the movie, but just Wesley
James
Snipes'
Lippy, he loves
Blade.
Blade 3 as well.
Yeah, so Wesley Snipes' Blade it's just beyond incredible. You can't do better than that.
Mhm.
Yeah, he did a
So,
great job.
Well,
but
I'm sorry, I was just gonna say, if you think about it, you got the MCU doing the whole multiverse thing now. You could bring in Wesley Snipes as Blade.
yeah, and I've heard that they've even talked about that. In some sort of fashion, which I would be all for it. I like them bringing back Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I think is great. Because Hugh Jackman is my Wolverine, whether you like the movies or not. Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. He may not
Yeah.
fit He may not fit the comic book character, and I completely I get that too. But Hugh Jackman as Wolverine was awesome.
Honestly, at this point, I couldn't imagine anyone else.
Yeah, I agreed. I really couldn't imagine anybody else. Like when you say, "Oh, Wolverine," I'm like,
it's one of those like you almost like those questions like who is perfect for the role? It's like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man.
You can make an argument against Hugh Jackman as Wolverine because he's like triple Wolverine's height.
Yeah,
yeah, he is.
Not
I mean,
like
but
Wolverine
even,
is. He's a lot more lean too. Like Wolverine's supposed to be stocky.
Yeah, I mean, and because Hugh Jackman's 6'3", I'm like, he's a tall guy. And I completely, like I said, I completely get that. But just the portrayal, like in my opinion, was perfect.
Oh, yeah, I mean, he's a great actor.
And the fact that like he can go from like doing a musical to playing Wolverine, and like I mean, dude gets jacked too. Like he if you see photos of him getting
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, he gets well that I wasn't going for a pun, but yeah, no, he really is. Like if you see his arms, man, dude, he gets torn, like gets
when
ripped
he was
up
in
like
the Wolverine, the one in Japan, like dude, he was crazy shredded in that movie.
Dempsey Peter Dinklage as Wolverine.
That would be funny.
That would be that'd be a great spoof. I'd watch that.
And City's Bliss coming in with his underrated game of Nocturne, a 1920s survival horror, which I've never heard of, but a couple of horror games mentioned. Cool.
Yeah, I played that game. It's an old PC, kind of, sort of like Diablo, I suppose. At least if it's the game I'm thinking of. It's like an ARPG.
He says that it was in the same universe as the Blood Rain and Blair Witch Project games.
Or the same developer, because I mean,
those as I say, those I don't think those are in the same universe, but same developer. That would make sense.
Does anybody other than me know that there were actually a couple Blood Rain movies made?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they're Uwe Boll movies.
Yeah.
Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like
you get to see the Terminatrix naked in.
Yeah. It's like just one of those things that's like but based on, I mean, because like I knew about the video games, then when the movies came out, I think I was like a teenager or something, like late teens, and then I watched one, I'm like, whoa, this isn't it's like hey-o.
So Ryan, we haven't gotten to you yet on what's an underrated game or franchise.
I said the thing. But I can pick another one too. Another one that I thought that maybe nobody's really heard of. It's called Indigo Prophecy.
Yes,
yes. You guys have heard of it?
Fahrenheit.
It was the first.
I loved Indigo Prophecy
game that really hit. It was.
But a lot of people.
Omicron, I think, was the first. Omicron with David Bowie, and then Indigo Prophecy or Fahrenheit.
Yeah, it was called Fahrenheit in Japan, and it was called Indigo Prophecy here in the States, and it was on PlayStation 2 as well.
I think it was also on original Xbox.
Also, another one that I could pick too is I'm a huge fan of the Way of the Samurai, the first game that came out for the PS2. A lot of people probably haven't maybe heard of that one, but they made another, and it was a lot of fun. So anything with freaking samurai swords and stuff is awesome. Yeah, the combat was a lot of fun.
Also, I would say one of the best ones that I played back in the PS2 days was a franchise called The Getaway. I don't know if you ever played that.
I think I've heard of that. I don't know much about it though.
Yeah, there was two of them.
Smoking barrels type deal.
Kind of, yeah. It's an action crime drama. It's set in London, and you're a former gangster, and you're set up to you pretty much pulled back into the life by being set up for trying to be set up to be the fall guy, but you're not gonna take it. You're not just gonna do it. So, yeah, it's a really great game. It's a franchise I really wish that they would bring back. But Indigo Prophecy, yeah, that was David Cage's first game, or like one of his first directorial games, if I remember right. And there was actually this huge thing where across the seas where it was known as Fahrenheit. I remember that was a whole censorship issue because they allowed there to be nudity in the game overseas, but yet when they brought it over here, they cut like all the nudity out, but yet all the violence was still in there. And everyone was like, why did we have to cut out the nudity, but they didn't, and we're supposed to be the freest
maybe
country.
That was a later version, because the version I had on PlayStation 2, of course, I bought it when it first came out. It It had nudity in it, but I guess there wasn't like they took some. I guess they kind of Barbie and Kendom in a
Yeah,
sense. So
yeah,
like so maybe that's what they're talking about.
right.
So like there was more detail in the actual Japanese version, is what you're saying.
Yeah, there was more detail to
Okay.
it. It was actual nudity. I mean, she was taking a shower, or they were. I mean, people have sex. So let's just, you know,
Oh
it
yeah,
was
no,
a sex
they
scene.
do it in that train
That's
car.
not a real
Yeah.
thing. You're lying.
Yeah.
Yes. But I remember they like censored it. They took a lot of that kind of stuff out. I think they actually shortened the scene for the Western audience, and but like the
I didn't
audiences
know that.
everywhere else got full frontal. You know, it was like why did I remember that whole thing being like, why did we have to censor it and nobody else did?
Yeah,
Well,
I don't know much about that game, but I know I've seen it on a bunch of lists of basically
it,
like what games don't get the recognition they deserve. So
Mhm.
so it came out like what 2005, right? I
Something
think
like that.
2000.
4 or 5.
That was shortly. I mean, you have to think that was only like what
2005.
6 years, 6 years after the whole let's start blaming video games for violence and stuff like that. And I know because I was in high school when Columbine happened. I mean, I lived in Colorado.
Mhm.
Um, and I wanted GoldenEye 007, and my dad was kind of iffy on it because the media was blaming video games for violence, and my mom was
Yeah.
like, he's not gonna do like, and so they got me the game, and of course, obviously, I mean, I haven't you know torched any schools or anything.
Right.
Yet.
So yeah, we'll see. No, it's one of those things that's probably what it was, is that the government or something like that was putting the crackdown on video games for really hard during that time, and so that really sucks. Though I didn't know that.
Mm. Yeah, I remember. I mean, the government has tried to crack down on video games quite a lot. I mean, back in
Hmm.
'93 when they put in the ESRB rating because of the violence in video games. But yeah, I remember because that's back when that
Mortal
lawyer,
Kombat.
that Jack Thompson guy.
Jack Thompson, yeah, he got
Yeah,
disbarred eventually. Thank goodness. That guy was
yeah,
a
but
joke.
that's back when, because I used to live in DeKalb, Illinois. Actually, I lived in Sycamore, and if you remember, NIU had a shooting right there, Northern Illinois University. They had a shooting there, and I was actually living in Sycamore when that happened. And I remember he was there. I don't know. He came from Florida. He jumped on there, and he jumped right in front of Fox News' cameras, going like, "Oh yeah." And I remember a lot of times people are desensitized by violent video games, and then it turned out the shooter didn't play games.
Yeah. It's and I think obviously this is a perfect topic for this stream because we're talking about video games. But yeah, video games and music have been
See you later, Dempsey.
blamed for horrendous things, and it's like there's never been or any real correlation to any of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's just nuts. But the fact that they censored that game because of most likely what the huge crackdown that was going on then. I mean, and they've even tried to ramp it up like what, probably 5 years ago or something like that. They're trying to ramp up that garbage
Yeah,
again.
bring it back.
Yeah. Anytime
Whenever,
there's a school shooting or an office shooting, that seems
yeah,
to be the first place they go, and then they're like, "Oh, no, wait, we have brains. We should use them."
yeah, well, yeah. It's just nonsensical. But no, I think Indigo Prophecy is an incredible game. I thought the story was incredible. Some people, it was a lot. It was pretty darn cinematic for its time. I know a lot of people didn't really like the whole timed events thing. That's kind of where it kind of got its a big kick. Because
Mm.
I obviously I played what's the other one? Freaking the Rain game. What's it called?
Heavy Rain.
Oh, Heavy
Heavy
Rain.
Rain. I played Heavy Rain. It's by the same studio.
Jason!
So
Jason!
yeah.
Jason! Jason! Or when he's looking for his other kid, Sean! It's like, okay.
Sean, that's what it was.
This
Sean.
is supposed to be such an intense emotional scene that I can't stop laughing.
Is there ever a mod where it's just Jason, like you
I've seen that
exhaust your
mod
number of
before.
Jasons and you just go home, forget about it?
Yeah.
So,
Jason.
Oh my
so
God.
for me, I had a number of answers written down. I'm only going to go through two real quick here. One is the original Prey from 2006. I thought that was a really great game. I know that the most recent one from 2017 gets a lot of a lot of love, but not a lot of people ever talk about the original one. I thought that was really great, and it was very mind bendy, and like you change, like it messes with physics in a really interesting ways I've never seen another game do. I thought that game was really cool. And then the main one that I wanted to mention is because I'm a huge, as most of you probably know, I am a Metroidvania specialist, and I freaking love the Metroid Prime games. And we literally have gotten almost no 3D Metroidvania games. There's very few. Usually the one that gets mentioned the most is Arkham Asylum when it comes to 3D Metroidvanias. But one that I really love, and I don't think we're ever going to get a sequel, but was a lot of fun. It's not terribly long, but it's probably the closest thing we've gotten to a Metroid Prime game because it is a first-person shooter. You have a gun, but it's not really like shoot heavy. Was Journey to the Savage Planet. Was a really good 3D Metroidvania first-person shooter, and you can play it in co-op too, which is great. There's actually some achievements tied to it, and I don't think that game gets the love that it deserves.
I actually saw an interview just recently with the director of the new Prey games, and he said that apparently they were going to call it something else. It wasn't even supposed to be a Prey game.
That makes sense.
Because it's so different from the original.
Tying it to the original. They're completely different games.
Bethesda.
No, he wanted to call it something else, but it was Bethesda that told him, "You're going to make this. We're going to say that it's a reboot or a remake of Prey," and he's like. And he said, but he was on the phone. He's like, but it's not.
But why?
They're like, but what we're gonna say it is. He's like, but it's not. You know, like just
but it's not. They're like, no.
Yeah, the Ryan Reynolds meme. But why?
Yeah, I didn't know that it. I didn't know that there was well, obviously they have nothing to do with each other, but I didn't know that there was actually an original until you literally just said that, man. I know the Bethesda
360 game.
So I know the Bethesda one, but I didn't know there was one previous.
Yeah, and the one that we got in 2017.
Are you guys not aware of the canceled Prey 2?
That's what I was just gonna say, because there was a Prey 2 that was gonna be like 2013, and that got canceled. Then it got rebooted again for the Prey that we ended up getting in 2017.
And Prey 2 looked amazing. It
looked pretty cool.
To Johnny Cash's cover of Rusty Cage by Soundgarden. It's CGI, but it's a really cool little video. And there is a gameplay video trailer out there that kind of makes it look like Titanfall on Coruscant, effectively.
Yeah, you're basically a bounty hunter in what looks like Coruscant, and you're hunting down aliens and stuff. It looks pretty cool. There's
like sliding and wall running and double jumping and things. It looked really good. And
you're talking Rusty Cage, who did the Hearst song, right?
Rusty Cage is a Soundgarden song, but yeah, it's covered by the same guy who covered Nine Inch Nails' "Hurt," Johnny Cash.
I'm sorry, because I know there's a singer. I thought he was called Rusty Cage, and he sings a song about being in a hearse. You know, but it's like
no. I think what you're thinking of is Johnny Cash, and he covers a Nine Inch Nails song called "Hurt," and he also on the same album he covers a Soundgarden song called "Rusty Cage."
No, I know about Hurt. I know about Hurt, but there's a song called the Hearst song, and I think the singer is called Rusty Cage, or at least that's what he used to call him.
Okay, then maybe we're thinking about two different things entirely then.
Yeah.
Crisscross wires. So, all right. Well, we are at an hour and a half, which is usually our out time because Ryan and Mark usually have streams going on. So, do you guys need to bounce, or do you got time for another question?
I don't have to be anywhere until 4 p.m., so I have another hour and 53 minutes. So yeah, I can keep going.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I can keep playing. I'm just still playing Super Mario RPG. I'm on my stream now. I've not ended it. It's just I'm also here.
All right. Well, we'll get to that question that we alluded to earlier, and that is, who is your favorite silent protagonist? So. I think Charlie and I had the same answer, so I'll go ahead and let him go first.
All right, so I was looking at that. I'm thinking Samus, circa Metroid Dread.
Yeah, so I would qualify Samus as a silent protagonist, even though, like, Metroid Other M, she talks, and there's a lot of, like,
she speaks
text
in
dialogue.
What is this Other M that you keep talking about? The Other M doesn't exist.
She does speak. She speaks in Dread. That's what I'm saying, though. Like she does have lines in Metroid Dread.
I mean, I guess would minimum
mostly
lines count? Mostly
silent. That's kind of what I was going for.
Kind of like a Silent Bob situation where you might get like one or two prominent lines.
Yeah, it's one spoken line she has, and it's in the oh god, well,
It's in the Chozo language.
Chozo language, yeah. I was like, I almost called the Raven Beak, and I was like, no, that's the guy.
Yeah, I was going for basically a character that is mostly a silent protagonist. Either they have a line here that don't have to be strictly silent, as long as they're mostly known as a silent protagonist. So yeah, Samus was going to be my answer as well, but I do have a couple others if anyone else doesn't take those. But yeah, Samus is probably my favorite because I am a huge fan of the Metroid franchise and the Metroidvania genre in its entirety, which has a lot of silent protagonists.
Mm.
What about Adam? You got one?
Well, yeah, kind of alluding to what I said before about the suffering. I would say Torque was my favorite silent protagonist because you really didn't learn his story through him telling you. It was you learned how people you learned about him, how people thought about him by hearing what people were talking about with you, and then through the flashbacks that he was having when you would find certain things. So he was probably one of my favorites. And then I don't know if I'm cheating with this one, but I really liked the silent protagonist in the 2 South Park games.
Oh yeah, the new kid. I didn't even think about that, but that's a good answer.
Yeah, because I mean, you gave your character a name, and it doesn't matter. They just called you douchebag. So
Yeah.
that didn't matter what you said.
That's right. I forgot about that. And there's even an achievement at the beginning of Stick of Truth that because they ask you, is douchebag, is this your name? And normally you would say, no, it's not my name. But if you just accept it and say yes, you unlock an achievement.
Yeah, I remember that. And then I love how in the second game, because you can change what your character looks like, they actually then make reference to the way that you look now, and they're like, we thought he was a boy, or we thought he was a girl. They continually make references to the way that you look, which it's that little attention to detail that makes games really special sometimes. But I just loved how all this stuff happened. Randy was calling you his favorite kid with Stan sitting right there, and all these things that you were basically saving the town, and you never said a word, and how everybody suddenly loved you when you'd never said even hello to them. And that was always one of my favorites. But yeah, but out of pure silent protagonist, I would say Torque from The Suffering.
Okay, cool. Jose Gonzalez is coming in with Bomberman's one of his favorite. Cool. Yeah, I haven't really played much of the Bomberman franchise, but I did play the one on N64 because my friend had it a few times. And that was pretty fun. So, Ryan, what about you?
I would have to go. We're gonna go way back on this one. I would say Link from the original Legend of Zelda.
That was my number 2.
I'm a massive Legend of Zelda fan. I even like the cartoon that they did in what was the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, I even liked that. And I currently own the DVD collection of that to this day. So no, Legend of Zelda, the gold cartridge, I love that so much. I played the holy crap out of that game. And it was just so much fun. So yeah, that's definitely going to be mine. I think probably another good one would be Doom Guy from some of the, because what the Bethesda remakes he does talk, but some of the original ones he doesn't.
Oh, you stole Mark's answer.
What? I didn't. I just said that's another good one. That wasn't my favorite.
No, I mean, I didn't say you stole my answer. I'm just saying that was my answer.
I didn't even think about that. But yeah, Doom Guy, that's a good one. Especially since I just finally finished completing Doom Eternal last month.
Nice. Would you be able to say that Mario from the original Mario was a silent protagonist? Because he really didn't say anything. The only thing that was said was, thank you, Mario, but our princess is in another castle. And that wasn't Mario saying it. So.
Yeah,
that was just Toad being rude.
That's not much of a...
Yeah. I was gonna ask though, why Mario from the original? Oh, sorry, Link from the original game as opposed to any other. Does that stand out for any reason, or is it just because it's the first?
It stands out because probably the nostalgia of it. I played it as a very little kid, and so it's something that I love to this day. That's probably why I would probably go that direction.
But so it's nothing about the way he's characterized in that game specifically is kind of what I mean?
I think it's just the nostalgia factor.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, I think it's just nostalgia, but no, because I mean, I played the 64 games. I played the one on what the hell was the one on the Wii? Supposed to be for the GameCube. I forgot we
Twilight
had this.
Princess.
Yeah,
Twilight
yeah,
Princess?
yep. Played Twilight Princess. I haven't played anything past that. Um, so, but I'd like to. I mean, I got a Switch. I should.
Are you going to see the Legend of Zelda movie that they're allegedly working on?
Well, after the
Well,
success of the Mario movie, yeah, absolutely. Obviously, I've heard there's supposed to be some controversies about that, but I don't think they're gonna. I don't. After the success of Mario, I think I think it's gonna be fine.
The
I would.
controversy is just the live action because
versus
I,
animated.
I think that's a very bad idea.
I think
don't
live action's a bad idea. I would love to see. I would very much love to see the animated one. I
what's
don't know if they're ever going to make a live action one. That'd be too
that's
hard to do.
They
that's
learned their lesson with the Mario movie in '93. No,
no,
don't do that.
yes, because no, they didn't. That's what's been announced. A live action Zelda project. Has
Oh,
been
what? I thought it was Illumination that was doing an
no,
animated
no,
one.
no, no, no,
No,
just
no.
send me pictures.
Nope.
So
It's live action Zelda.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
what-
what I'm saying.
like,
I was
why
like,
not
I
do
don't
it
know, guys.
animated?
Like, I mean, the controversy is there for a reason.
Then no, I'm probably not.
Well, I don't know if Nintendo is as hands-on with it as they were with the Mario movie. Maybe
Well,
it wouldn't be so bad.
Does everybody remember when IGN did that spoof or whatever for April Fools of like a Legend of
Oh,
Zelda
yeah,
live
yeah.
action? That one,
Yeah.
I know some.
Saw a
I mean,
video on that
it's the
yesterday.
graphics are very dated on it. I mean, because obviously I think the joke is 15 years old. But when that came out, I was actually very excited. I thought that was real. I got
I
duped.
think
I
a lot
really
of people
did.
thought it was real.
Yeah, and then of course, I mean, because the monsters, like kind of like some of the traps and stuff. I mean, I think they did a good job. It just in today's Hollywood, I don't know. I think Legend of Zelda it would be much better as an animated than live action.
What do you want to bet
Yeah,
they
I
cast Chris Pratt as Link?
No, it's going to be Tom Holland.
Oh, it's
Oh
Tom Holland.
God, please don't be Tom Holland. He's in everything.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he was fine, but just overrated these days.
I
Like
saw
Tom Holland is fine as Spider-Man to Peter Parker, but like he doesn't need the Uncharted movie. I'm a massive Uncharted fan. It sucks. It just sucks.
I like
That's
the
not-
Uncharted movie, and I'm
I don't know
massive
anything
Uncharted
about
fan.
Uncharted, so I enjoyed that movie.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
listen.
played the snot out of all the games, even the ones like
So did
the
I.
Lost File. Like I'm a
Yep.
huge fan of Uncharted, and I don't see it with Tom Holland. It doesn't compare and contrast.
See, when you
I-
were doing the younger Nathan Drake, I could buy Tom Holland as Drake,
Younger,
but
yes,
I almost
but
couldn't
making
get
the whole
Mark
movie-
Wahlberg as Sully. It's like Sully's an older guy, mustache. He does
Yep.
not look like
Right.
Mark Wahlberg, you know.
They were cowards by not giving Mark Wahlberg a mustache.
They also
Until the very end of the movie. Then he had it, and then they were kind of making fun of it, and I'm like, that mustache should have been there the whole time. You know?
I think that was important to know for that movie that they didn't try to establish him as the young Nathan Drake. They went out of their way to make it so like, yeah, Nathan Drake's just younger now because there was a bunch of sequences that are just ripped out of the game.
It's because Tom
They're not
Holland was
going to-
popular. And they were trying to pull in this younger audience over Tom Holland, and it was like, dude, no, they don't know what Uncharted is. They probably don't care, like because the Uncharted games, obviously the first Uncharted was on the PlayStation 3. It's why I bought a PlayStation 3. I want to play the original Uncharted.
I
It
mean,
looked
like,
awesome.
Uncharted 4 is not that old. It's like,
Well, no, but
It's pretty darn old.
I
is it?
will say for the movie, it
Yeah,
had one of the greatest
PlayStation 4
cameos
is
of all
like-
time.
PlayStation 4 is
Well, the PlayStation 4, I mean, it was one of it came
what
out
the-
shortly after it launched.
within this past decade. Like, I mean, I'm saying, who are the kids that are like going to the
Dude,
Uncharted movie?
kids don't
that-
remember fucking last weekend.
Well,
Let's call a spade a spade. Come
well,
on.
why are they ever giving a shit about an adaptation then?
It's 1,000%.
Is the adaptation element important if it needs to be tied into something that's recent?
The
Because I
reason
don't think that's the case. I think that if it was good, it would hit because it would just be a good movie.
we have to look at the Mario movie, right? So like the reason the Mario movie was a massive success is because obviously people my age and older who remember playing the original Mario game and loving it would take their kids to see it, right? And that's how you create a new generation of Mario fans. The thing
Mark
is,
took his
though,
niece and nephew, and they fell in
yeah,
love with it.
I mean, yeah, but like the thing with that is though, is the movie I took them to was something they enjoyed. Like that I think is a big.
yeah.
I think it's
The
much more
problem,
important thing because my niece and nephew, they didn't care that it was a Super Mario adaptation. They had no idea who Super Mario was until I brought
yes.
them to that movie. So
So
it's like,
that's the problem with the Uncharted movie is that just because Tom Holland is popular with all the because all the 20-year-olds, they're not going to go see Uncharted because Tom Holland's in it, not necessarily.
Mm.
Because they're like, what's this Uncharted? Who's this character? They don't know. And so and then of course you turn away actual fans of the franchise because they're like, well, we changed it because of whatever. And I'm like, well, okay, well then it's not Uncharted. And that's where I understand the Tomb Raider argument from earlier is that that's not an they may say that that's an Uncharted movie. It's not an Uncharted movie. It's just not.
Okay,
It's
I gotta say right now, Bruce Campbell as Sully and Nathan Fillion as Nathan Drake.
yeah,
That's the
that's
Once upon a
Uncharted
time,
movie I
that
want
because
to
would've worked.
see.
because Nathan Drake was based off of a character that Nathan Fillion played.
Mhm. And
So,
there is
and I mean,
a fan made film that has him as Drake.
I've seen it and it's very good. Even though Nathan Fillion, who I love, I watch him. I love The Rookie. I watch it like every when it's on. Massive fan of that show. And Nathan Fillion is incredible. But I love Firefly, and that's where we get this Nathan Drake personality is somebody who Nathan Fillion played in. And even though if they were to do it like, oh, well, now Nathan Drake is older, maybe he can't do it as much, like that would still be 10 the fan film is 10 times better than that freaking because it was Sony, right? That
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
it. Yeah, it was a piece of shit.
I will say that it did have the greatest cameo I've ever seen in a video game movie with when Nolan North showed up for that couple seconds there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
I
Yeah.
just love that he's coming down and he's like,
I mean-
good God, what happened to you guys? And they're like, oh, we fell out of a cargo plane. He's like, oh, something like that happened to me once.
That was good. Most people probably wouldn't even realize that was him because you don't really ever see his face; you just hear his voice.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
it's a wide shot with all of them, and it's like, yeah, it's him.
It's one of those things that sometimes you have to go with the more hardcore fans and the decision to cater to them because they're going to bring, say, their girlfriend or their wife or their kids, and it's like that's how you create a new generation.
Mhm.
You can't expect to vomit something out and have the new generation go, I'm going to watch that because this is the generation of kids that like they watch a 10-second video on TikTok and that's almost too long because they're scrolling to the next one.
Yeah.
And I think
Goldfish attention spans.
yes, like I think that's even probably being too generous. I'd say they have the attention span of a gnat. And because it's just, I mean, I have a nephew who's in high school and he loses interest like that.
Mhm.
He'll want to do something, and all of a sudden he's like, it's like, all right, well, I guess you're done.
Well, that's what the new Five Nights at Freddy's movie is doing. I mean, it got ripped apart by critics, but it's doing really well with the audiences. And
Mhm.
Blumhouse even said, "We didn't make it for the critics; we made it for the fans." And that same thing happened with the Mortal Kombat movie. That happened to do well with critics. The new one that happened to do pretty well with critics. But they said we made it for the fans. We know we changed a few things; it was going to ruffle a few feathers, but they honestly were giving it fan service for the most part.
I didn't mind the new Mortal Kombat movie. I didn't love it, but then again, I grew up with the one from the '90s. So, and that one I think I know it's very campy, but
Yeah.
it's such a great movie.
I like that one too.
I mean, it's just I loved everything about that Mortal Kombat movie. So, but no, look, I think doing it for the audience that's already there will pull in new people. And I think that I think Hollywood has made some really bad decisions over the last decade. And
Assassin's
I think
Creed, dude. Assassin's Creed.
that movie was so hard to sit through. And I was excited when that movie was announced. That movie was so hard to sit through.
I know, because it was like, oh, Ubisoft is actually directly in charge of it. It's like, oh, okay, so we're gonna really follow the source material? No.
No. So sorry, I think we got off topic of what the last question was.
Sorry,
No
that's
worries.
my fault.
It happens. And Jose saying that he's very partial to Wind Waker's animated Link. Melee K would be very happy to hear you say that because she loves Wind
What
Waker.
was Wind Waker on the GameCube?
GameCube.
Yeah.
It was
And
the
then there was
GameCube.
a HD version on the Wii U.
Let's give a Wind Waker adaptation to Studio Ghibli and collect the $1 billion check.
Let's
That
make it happen.
that would probably be a very good idea, given the very limited knowledge I have on Studio Ghibli. But I think that'd probably be pretty good. So,
And then, who was your favorite silent protagonist? You said Nerdy.
Yeah, so my first pick was Samus, and then Link, but a couple others that I had on here that I really love: Gordon Freeman, Half-Life, and even maybe even more so than that. Even though I love Half-Life, I love puzzle games, so I freaking love the Portal games. And Shell, silent protagonist, I really love her. And although I guess it's more so the back and forth, although it's more of one-sided with GLaDOS, because I think we talked about favorite antagonist on the last episode, because that was my answer for favorite antagonist was GLaDOS. But I love the Portal games, so I'd probably have to say Gordon Freeman's a better character, but I did put Shell up there as well, even though you never even hear her name. Somehow everyone knows her name is Shell. Kind of like how they never say Wicket in Star Wars, but everyone knows that's the main
wasn't it like on the back of the box? I could have sworn that like you play as Shell I thought that was how everyone knew her name.
I'll have to go grab my my orange box and take a look at the back and see if that's on there, because I don't know how people found out that was their name.
But the reason I'd say Doomslayer, though, is kind of mine, is that despite being a silent protagonist, he does emote a lot. And he's a first-person silent protagonist, so you don't get to see his facial expressions. It's just what he does. And most of the time, he smashes.
Yeah, I'm surprised I didn't think of Doom Guy, but yeah, that would definitely be on my list as well. So
I'm surprised nobody mentioned Claude from Grand Theft Auto 3.
I'm not a huge Grand Theft Auto fan, so I mean, I would have thought of that.
I really prefer Tommy from Vice City. Like,
I was meaning silent protagonist.
No, but that's the thing. Like, once they started talking, I think the GTA protagonist got better. So I don't think I would do that. Whereas I would maybe make the argument that Fallout 4 was a step back for Fallout by giving the protagonist a voice, because it made it so that they were writing out the intention of what you said, and then you get to hear the voice actor say what you actually picked as a dialogue choice. Whereas other Bethesda games, actually including Starfield, you just have the full text of what your response is, so it's totally clear to you what you're saying. And you can either, if you're streaming it, for example, you can either voice act it aloud if you want, or hey, if you just want to role play and you're on your own, nothing wrong with saying the line out loud and pretending you're talking to your TV, right? Like,
it's kind of one reason I like Fallout 76 more than I like Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is probably actually my least favorite Fallout game.
Yeah, there you go.
I would say that probably New Vegas would be my absolute favorite. I think 3 was incredible, but I think New Vegas was just a little bit better. So
I mean, I think that's generally most people will say New Vegas is the better.
Because
I mean, also it doesn't like Fallout 3, just like 4, relies on power armor a whole lot, whereas you don't ever have to be in power armor in New Vegas.
No, I run around in the NCR Ranger armor.
You felt more like a wasteland survivor than a superhero that's come to bring peace to Fallout, you know? Whereas I thought that's kind of what 3 felt like.
Bring peace to my new empire.
Speaking of video game live adaptations, I don't know about this Amazon Fallout. I don't know.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
I'm a little about it.
It's not even on my radar at this point.
It's funny how Amazon has basically the two opposite ends of the spectrum. You got great things like Terminal List and Jack Ryan and Reacher, but then you got, Rings of Power. And
it depends on what Amazon we're getting.
Yeah, it depends on what version. Yeah,
the new season of Invincible. Invincible's been quite good lately.
Oh, is that on Amazon?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
And I'll say this too. I don't know if Amazon realizes, but Fallout fans are very ravenous. Kind of maybe not as much as Lord of the Rings fans, but it's pretty darn close because like I said, freaking Fallout fans torched the snot out of 76 so much that they changed that game.
Well,
They fundamentally changed the game.
My wife's job might be as secure as it is because one particular Lord of the Rings fan was as passionate as he was, and made a fair amount of money criticizing Rings of Power.
Well, I mean, as somebody who watched Rings of Power, what a waste of. I mean, that's probably it's like 12 hours of my life I'll never get back.
I only watched 2 episodes and I was out.
Yeah,
House of the Dragon though. House of the Dragon came out around the same time. It was quite good.
House of the Dragon was awesome. I cannot wait for season 2. I have a group of panelists that every Monday we're reviewing Game of Thrones. We're going all the way through House of the Dragon season 1, and then we'll be finished by the time season 2 comes out. And it's, even though Game of Thrones has its problems towards the end because we're in season 6 now, obviously. So this is where things start kind of breaking down a little bit. It's still a lot of fun because House of the Dragon was just so good. It was so good.
I remember putting up on Facebook once that when we were young and we would have to ask our parents if we were old enough to watch something. And I was like, well, now I'm in my 30s and I watch a show called Game of Thrones, and sometimes while watching it, I feel like I should call my mom and ask her if I'm old enough to watch this.
Well, you know what's funny is that so my dad and I recently watched a show that I think it was on HBO or something. It was called or Showtime. I can't remember. Anyway, it was called Homeland. So anyway, we just got done watching that, and my nephew he was like, isn't there a superhero called Homelander? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, he's on a show called The Boys. I'm like, you don't need to be watching that. And he's like, oh, I don't want to watch it. And I was like, what?
Honestly, like Homeland might have been more appropriate to watch than The Boys, like the superhero.
Yeah. Well.
Appropriate.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, because I watched The Boys season 3 is the one that just came out, right? It just starts off by dude shrinking down and going inside another dude's wee hole, and I'm like, nope, that's too much. It's too much.
I thought you were gonna say they played out that fan theory of Ant-Man and Thanos.
Oh God!
They did, because it was It was a mistake. They were gay lovers, and apparently the one liked to have it inside of his wee hole tickled. I don't know. And they made it a very visual thing of he's going in there. I mean, this is not something we needed to see, by the way. And then he sneezes, and he gets giant, and his lover explodes. I'm not joking. That was the very first episode of season 3.
Everyone's sounding, not even.
Oh my goodness.
And everyone just tuned out.
Good night, everybody.
So, as I always reference How I Met Your Mother, so boogie boarding.
Great series.
They're trying to tell a story about boogie boarding, and they keep getting off topic. So
I know, dude.
Sorry, go ahead.
One thing I was going to say earlier about when we were talking about Zelda, because I forgot, is that I saw someone mention for a fan casting of Tanner Buchanan, who's Robbie Keane in Cobra Kai, as Link. I was like, I can see that. So
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, he's Johnny's son in Cobra Kai.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, no.
Does Link? I'm not sure if I agree that Link needs to be like a young dude, like a super young dude, because I don't know. I kind of think if Link was like an older warrior guy, I think it would maybe make for a better live action movie. Because like, I mean, ultimately, if you see this dude that looks like Timothy Chalamet, like messing people up like he's Conan the Barbarian, it might be a little weird. You know?
Yeah, that's true.
But if you got like, he's probably too old to play Link right now, but a similar type of like an Alexander Skarsgård type dude, I'd be like, yeah, this guy can fight Ganon.
Was that the bad guy in John Wick 4?
No, that's his brother Bill. But Alexander was
too many Skarsgårds.
Yeah, Alexander was the one from the Northman.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Oh yeah. He was on True Blood too, right?
Yeah.
And he's actually like from that area. He's Scandinavian.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was perfect in the Northman.
Yeah, if they did a little bit more of a mature Link,
it's the reason I don't think live action is a good format for Legend of Zelda, because the things you need to do to make Legend of Zelda work will look strange in live action.
I agree.
Like, I think that in an animated context, they look totally fine, because like most anime are a like thin twink dude fighting gigantic monsters like it's
like
not
One Punch Man.
Yeah. I mean, well, and I know that they've greenlit it, but the thing is that with all the negativity towards it, you never know. They might just stop it and just be like, well, maybe we should just do animated like Mario. I'm hoping
Yeah.
that's
They
because
that
like I said, I thought the Mario movie was very enjoyable. And rightfully, I think they should have kept it in theaters longer because it would have made more than because it made 1.5 billion.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, they probably would have made more.
Yeah, it probably would have made probably 1.7, 1.8, almost $2 billion. Because I remember when Barbie beat it and everybody's like, oh my God, Barbie beat Mario. And I'm like, well, Mario probably would have smoked Barbie if it was in theaters longer, just for the record. So.
All right.
And on that note,
Yeah.
We're going to
Boogie
wrap
boarding,
it
huh?
up here. Yeah, so boogie boarding. So I had a great time as always. Thank you for joining me, Adam and Charlie.
Thanks for having us.
What do you guys got going on coming up here for you?
We're actually going to be taking a break from our show due to the Thanksgiving holiday. So we'll be probably about a week or two. And then we'll be back, I want to say the second week of December. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be doing then. We got a lot of people that are going to be coming on as guests. I have thrown a lot of lifesavers out there to try and get people on, and many of them are, and we just got to get it also set up. So a lot of exciting things that will be coming up.
Yep, and I'll say this now. If any of you guys want to come on to our show, I know Nerdy Neo, I know you want to, but like Mark or Ryan, if you want to
talk to you guys afterwards, because I do have a Saturday coming up in December that I will not be busy in the morning, so that one might work. So I'll talk to you afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And like if you other guys want to come on, just let us know. We'll figure something out.
Yeah, no, hit me up on Twitter. It's LG2076 News. And then we can coordinate that way. I use Twitter the most to book, the people I bring on to my Friday night show. So yeah, just give me a shout there.
LG2076 News.
LG2076 News, yeah. Because
cool.
my original account is Legion Games 2076 is still suspended, even though I won my appeal after Elon took over. But they then rebanned it, saying I was like ban evading. I'm like, but I won my appeal. Like, this doesn't make sense, and they still won't respond to me. I literally put in another like hey, I won. Can I have my account back? And still nothing. Like, so it seems like the more Twitter changed, the more it stayed the same.
And I did preload all of your guys' channels links in the stream description. So if you're not subbed to any of these guys, go click the link in the description to find their channels. You can sub to them that way. Yeah. So, well, cool. I'm hoping that we can. I'm really hoping that we can make time, because I really want to hop on your guys' show as well at some point. So, Ryan, what do you?
Additionally,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. This could probably just say for after. I was just going to drop my Discord link in the private chat. That way, if any of you ever want to bug me while I'm streaming, just feel free to drop in.
I was say I'll drop that in the chat if you want.
As for me, got a lot of stuff going on. So going to be going on Screaming Into the Void, my buddy Samuel the Infamous's channel, in about an hour and a half. And then, of course, actually we'll be going on Caucasian Sasquatch's channel at 6 p.m. So 2 hours after that. And then, of course, at 8 p.m., this is all Mountain Standard Time, I will be on Vets Talking for very much degeneracy and dermy jokes. And then, of course, tomorrow I will be on Adam the Renaissance Nerds channel. It's the Round Table with Jed the Hollywood Scholar and a few other people. Then we do Star Trek Engage, which is a show where we're reviewing the original Star Trek series. We started with Picard season 3, and now we're going through the original series, because I obviously was born in '85. I've never seen it, but I did grow up watching Next Generation, so we thought it'd be a lot of fun. And it's a great channel. It's a great show. We do review the episode, but we get sidetracked a lot. There's a lot of inappropriate jokes, so a lot more inappropriate jokes than on here. Neo's very very wholesome compared to what we do there. So it's not a substitute for watching the episode yourself. It's just a fun commentary. And then heck else am I doing? And then Monday, Game of Thrones. We'll be doing our Game of Thrones review. So season 6, episode number 5, I believe. No, 4. We're doing 4. So yeah, that's me. I do a lot of streaming over the weekend. You can find me all over the freaking place.
Sounds good.
Yeah, you busy.
And thank you to the chat. You guys are the superstars. Seriously. Still to this day, I don't know why anybody watches me. But people do. I don't get it. But hey, teach their own, I guess.
All right. And Mark, what do you got coming up?
I guess I'm streaming Super Mario RPG on my channels right now on Rumble, Kick, and YouTube.
Go right now.
Go watch him try to beat this jumping puzzle.
Yeah. You can see my puppies too. JoJo's growling.
Oh yeah, and the puppies. Can't forget about the puppies.
Oh, hey,
She's been quiet the entire show though. She's been here the whole time.
Yeah, very quiet. You guys doing oh, probably not, because X-Ray Girl's probably still on her.
Yeah, I don't know what time X-Ray Girl's going to get home. It will be sometime tonight, but what I do tonight will largely depend on what time that is and how she feels. So
yeah,
probably
no dating game tonight.
Yeah, likely no dating game tonight. Especially, I haven't thought of a topic. So if we do have one, I have work to do. But I really doubt that that's going to happen, because I think she's going to be home like 8, 9 p.m. And we normally do dating game at 6.
All right. And for me, I don't the only thing I've got on the calendar at the moment, of course, is the next episode of Party Chat 2 weeks from today on the 2nd. And episode 2 of Achievement Chasers with Dude 1286 will be the day before on Friday, the 1st at 5 o'clock Pacific. I'll probably be doing a open mic that week. I don't know if I'm going to be doing an open mic this upcoming week, given that it's Thanksgiving. So we'll see. Stay tuned for that. But I'll probably definitely be doing one the week after for sure. So that is what I got coming up on my calendar. So, well, thank you for coming on. You guys had a lot of fun. Thanks, Ryan and Mark, as always. Everybody in the chat, Jose, Insidious Bliss, Paul, James, Kay, Dempsey. It was great to see all you guys and had a lot of fun, and I look forward to next time. So, but we will catch you all later, everyone. And in the meantime, game on.